To the ones who've been holding it all, the silence, the emotions, the logistics, this space is for you. There's a question people ask, sometimes gently, sometimes with judgment. Why didn't she just leave? From the outside, leaving can look obvious. From the inside, it rarely is. Sometimes she stayed for security, not just financial security, structure, a home, predictability, one address, one rhythm. When someone has lived through instability, emotional, financial, or cultural, security doesn't feel optional. It feels like survival. So staying can feel less like choosing pain and more like protecting the ground beneath her children's feet. Sometimes she stayed because of hope. Maybe this is just a hard season. Maybe things will settle. Maybe with time. Maybe with effort. If she believes in growth, hope doesn't feel foolish. It feels loyal. It feels patient. It feels like love trying not to give up too soon. Sometimes she stayed because she wanted marriage, not just a relationship. Marriage. The life she had pictured. The family she had built. The identity she had stepped into. Living is not just living a person. Sometimes it feels like grieving a future she had already started living inside. Sometimes she stayed for the children, for one home, one dinner table, one version of no more she was trying to preserve. She's calculating long-term impact while carrying her present quietly. That is not blindness. That is protection. And then there are the reasons people don't see. Financial dependence, cultural expectations, religious weight, immigration ties, fear of judgment, exhaustion. The nervous system that learned long ago that this kind of chaos is what love feels like. The slow erosion of self that makes someone forget who she was before all this began. Sometimes living means starting from zero. And zero can feel terrifying when there's no soft place to land. None of this is weakness. All of it is human. And sometimes, while staying, she's also trying to survive it. Not just endure, survive. She learns which silence are safe, which modes to read, which version of herself creates the least friction. She becomes highly attuned, watchful, careful. She makes herself smaller, not because she's small, but because it keeps the peace. She stops asking for things. Not because she stops needing them, but because asking comes with a cost she's too tired to keep paying. So she builds quiet walls, not to keep him out, but to keep herself intact. A small internal space that still belongs to her. That is not weakness. That is preservation. She's doing two things at once. Holding that relationship together and quietly holding herself together within it. Both are true and both are exhausting. But at some point, something shifts. She realizes she's been protecting herself within the structure, but not protecting herself from it. And that shift doesn't always look like leaving. Sometimes she stays, but something inside her changes. She stops over-explaining, stops over-giving, stops trying to fix what she did not break. She stood there, but she's no longer invested in the same way. The emotional reach softens. The expectations lower. The urgency fades. She begins to detach, not out of bitterness, but out of clarity. Not because she doesn't care, but because she can no longer afford to care in the same way. Conversations become shorter. Reactions become quieter. Peace becomes more important than being understood. And from the outside, it can look like she has changed. But internally, something very specific is happening. She's no longer abandoning herself to keep the relationship intact. Sometimes the leaving doesn't happen physically first. Sometimes it happens emotionally. And that quiet, invisible shift is often the beginning of everything. So when someone asks, why did she stay? Maybe the better question is, what was she trying to protect? Security, hope, marriage, children, stability, identity, her footing in the world. Those are not weak reasons. They are deeply human ones. And if you stayed longer than people think you should have, maybe you weren't weak either. Maybe you were protecting something real. And maybe now, slowly, you are learning to protect yourself too. You've been holding it all. Here, you can set some of it down.